so far in the conference. So Katie, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. I wasn't sure if people were going to turn up after lunch, so this is a good turnout for me. It's a pleasure to join you today. I'm Katie Searle, as wonderfully introduced, and the ICO has been doing a lot of work over the last couple of years on age assurance, and I think everyone will agree it's kind of turned from what was kind of a niche topic to quite a fundamental issue that's kind of driving change in the online world. And I think that's because both expectations have changed, and that's both from regulators, but also from the public. And it's clear children deserve meaningful protections online, and that's not just from harmful content, but also from harmful data practices. And society now expects services to take clear, effective steps to make that a reality. So what I'm going to do today is try and talk through what we've learned as the ICO from the past couple of years of investigations, enforcement, engagement, supervision, both with industry and also with lots of people in the room here. And I'm going to try, I know that there's a bit of a joke in regulation that whatever the question, the answer is usually it depends when it's a regulator speaking, but I am going to try and set out with clarity what good looks like and try and answer some of these questions. So let's start. The first question, when is age assurance necessary? And that's a big question. So across our children's privacy work, we have had one message sort of come through quite clearly, and that's that age assurance isn't about collecting more data, it's about reducing risk. And over the past year, we've assessed platforms' use of age assurance, including the use of profiling. We've got a workshop on that in the next couple of days. We've also enforced against services who haven't had age assurance in place, and we've recently published a joint statement with Ofcom on the intersection between online safety and data protection. And from all of that work, there's a couple of clear messages. One principle, which is that age assurance is necessary when children are facing data-related risks that can't be mitigated any other way. And that's clear in two situations. So that's clear where children are not permitted on a service. So if a service is setting a minimum age, whether that be 13, 16, 18, then it must be enforced. And age assurance is the way to do that. So not in theory, not symbolically, but actually enforced in practice. And that's because from a data protection point of view, if a service is saying that these children, whatever age, aren't supposed to be on the service, then they will have no legal basis for processing the data of those children. So they should be prevented from accessing the site at sign up, and that's been clear in our work that we've done over the last couple of years. The second point is where children are allowed on the service, but they're facing heightened risk. And here it's less about prevention and it's more about risk reduction. So the question becomes not do I need age assurance, but what type of age assurance do I need? And will that meaningfully reduce the risk on my service? Children's data can be used to profile them, target them, influence them in ways that children just aren't able to understand. And so it's vital that they are offered these protections, and age assurance has a real role to play in that. So necessity isn't universal, it is contextual, but where it is necessary, it must be done properly. So I'll move on to talk a little bit about what we've learned about choosing the right method of age assurance. So over the last year in particular, we've spent a lot of time looking under the hood. So we've examined methods, looked at implementation, talked to providers, compared capabilities, and three clear lessons have emerged. So the first one is that effectiveness matters more than the label on the methods. So as we all know, age assurance is not a single technology, it's a toolbox, and we are genuinely tech neutral at the ICO, and I know at Ofcom as well, but we're absolutely not neutral on effectiveness. if you are putting in place an age assurance solution in order to meet your regulatory obligations, then it's really important that it actually works for your intended purpose. So if your goal is to keep children off your site because you have a minimum age, then effectiveness must be high, it must prevent access. If your goal is to distinguish children from adults to apply extra safeguards, but children are allowed on your service, then different levels of accuracy might be appropriate. The second message, and this will probably come as no surprise to anyone, but self-declaration is not effective as an age assurance method. That's clear from our enforcement finding. It's clear from our work with other regulators internationally. It's the most commonly used, but it is easily circumvented. Industry knows this, regulators know, adults know, but also children know, and they are circumventing it regularly. So where platforms are relying on self-declaration alone, they're not just they're exposing children to risk on their platforms, but they're also sort of undermining the purpose and use of age assurance. So if services are unsuitable for children of any age, self-declaration will not be sufficient to prevent access to them. Lesson 3 is that you must match the method to the risk. That's essential. So this is the area I think where it is quite difficult, because it's easy to overestimate what you need or underestimate what you need. And so the right approach really does require a clear framework, clear specific assessment of the risks of a service, and then that includes the processing of information on your site and the age assurance solution itself, and a reasoned explanation of why the method chosen is necessary and proportionate for your service. And of course, it's very important also that that's kept up to date. So we don't expect a sort of one size fits all approach to age assurance, because different risks do just justify different methods. But we do expect that structured decision making from services in deciding which age assurance, whether age assurance is necessary, and then which age assurance solution to use. I'll move on a little bit to earning public confidence, because this is a really important area for the age assurance industry. A major theme over the last year, but in particular with the take-up of age assurance, is that the public are extremely worried about how their data is being used within these solutions. So we get, isn't this just surveillance? Aren't you just collecting more data from children? What are you doing with the data afterwards? There's clearly a lack of trust in the industry as a whole from the public. So it's really, really important that we take that very seriously, and so does everyone here and listening online. Through our work, we know that it is possible to have privacy-preserving age assurance. The challenge, I think, is making sure that that is universal. So things like certification schemes and ISO standards, these are really helpful to build that credibility with industry. But I'll just go through some core expectations for privacy-first implementation. So first of all, data minimization, because this is the area that people are most worried about. Okay, so collect only what is needed for the check, retain it only for as long as is necessary for your purpose, make your retention periods transparent, clear, and defensible. And then these need to be assessed regularly. So for every data set collected, these should be considered. We know that that is what users are worried about. They're worried their data is being held for longer. So the more the industry can do to explain that that is not the case, be transparent, be open about how you are using this data, the better it will be. We are currently doing some risk reviews in this area with a number of age assurance providers, and it's really a priority for us to make sure that that's being done right by those providers we're looking at. But also what we want to be able to do is at the end of it, be able to say to the public, we've assessed this and actually it's looking good. You can have confidence in these solutions. So that is where we want to be with these things. Obviously, if there are issues, we will look to address them. But what we hope is that we can give that confidence to users as well. The second one is special category data. I think this is just an area where it's very important that everyone is very crystal clear. If a method is using biometric data for unique identification, then it places you in the special category territory. The safeguards are higher. However, if you're using biometric data and it's not unique identification, then that might, for example, facial age estimation, that might not put you in that category. If that's the case, explain that to your users, make sure that the processing stays within those bounds. In this case, ambiguity is not your friend, clarity is. Then we've got ongoing accuracy and fairness. So age assurance technology, as we know, it's not static, models drift, and fairness considerations can evolve over time. So just a sort of set and forget approach isn't going to work. We are going to need to continually have regard to what state of the art is with regular testing and QA cycles. Then we've got children's best interests. Every sort of design choice should be anchored in your data protection obligations and in the child's experience. The strongest providers are those who are embedding children's rights and safety from the outset, not as an afterthought. And I've said this a lot of times already, but again, just transparency. It's fundamental to all of this, being transparent with your users. That's the way to build public confidence for all the good that age assurance can do. And as much as we will want to promote age assurance to meet regulatory obligations, as long as it's sort of necessary and effective, if the public don't want to use these services, they will rebel against it, they will try and circumvent it, and that's not going to help anybody, and that's certainly not going to help children. Going to talk a little bit about online safety and data privacy and how they interact. And this one's quite close to my heart because I worked at Ofcom before I worked at the ICO. So it's very, very important. I know more than anyone that these do interact. We recently put out a joint statement, and the message to industry is this: you cannot choose between online safety and data protection. You have to do both. And the joint statement, please do give it a read if you have not done so already. It reinforces some key messages. So a flexible tech-neutral approach from both regulators, a shared view that self-declaration is not enough, a recommendation that where there's a minimum age, that has to be enforced using effective age assurance, and a consistent expectation that you can process personal data for age assurance, but you just need to make sure that it's necessary and proportionate for your service. You'll see that we will continue to align with regulators, both Ofcom, other regulators, but also internationally as well. That's going to be very important. We do understand and know that regulation is slightly different in different areas, and we are trying our best to make sure that we are aligning where needed. So what's coming next and what do we need from you? So looking ahead, our focus is on raising standards across the ecosystem. So we want to raise standards for the platforms deploying the age assurance providers themselves, and that broader supply chain as well of identification verification services. So over the coming months, we're going to be monitoring the uptake of age assurance. It's vital to our work, particularly on social media platforms and video sharing platforms, which is our focus area at the moment. We will be specifically seeing whether any services make any changes to their age assurance approach following a letter that we sent out a few weeks ago asking them to revisit some of their age assurance practices and ensure that they have the appropriate method in place. And we will also be completing and then reporting on those risk reviews that I mentioned of age assurance providers themselves. As I said, we hope that we'll be able to report that actually privacy preserving age assurance is possible, and people and age assurance providers are keeping data safe within those systems, and you should expect that from us in the next few months. But we also need something from you, everyone in this room, if you're a service provider, if you're an age assurance provider. So age assurance is entering this new phase, so it is definitely critical infrastructure for online safety, for data privacy online. So to get this right, we need platforms, everyone in this room, to be transparent. Again, I know I've said it a lot, but it's very, very important, and it's what we're hearing. People just don't understand how this data is being used, and they don't understand what is happening. So show your evidence, explain your models, share your performance data as much as you can. And that's not just with us as a regulator, but also with the public, with your users. Be collaborative, so standards improve when you engage, not just with regulators again, but with each other. So events like this are really, really good to see. It's good to see everyone coming together, working together, and a desire to kind of move in this right direction with age assurance. And then be collaborative, be ambitious, sorry. So the public debate is changing. Expectations are rising. The way that we are moving is that the expectations are that children are kept safe on these services. Age assurance is fundamental to that. So not bad is not going to be good enough. We really do want solutions that are actually going to work, that are trusted, tested, and truly privacy preserving. So on that note, I will almost end. Just a little bit of a call to action. So children's privacy is not a niche regulatory concern. It is this obligation that society expects. So done well, it can be this really powerful tool. And you are all here today and listening online, very important players in that. So your decisions and your technologies will sort of shape whether it is safe for children to go online into the future. So we want to work with you to keep children safe online. We want solutions that are effective, proportionate, and privacy first. And we also want age assurance that is trusted and stands up to scrutiny. So if I can ask anything of you, it's please do these things. And that's all from me. I will take some questions if we have time, but also please do keep in touch, and I'll be around for the rest of the conference alongside some of my colleagues. Already a hand
Very
up.
good. Excellent. Ian. Go ahead.
Is there a mic?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, Ian Corby from the Age Verification Providers Association. I guess I was a bit surprised, I don't know whether happily or not, that you, in the joint statement, required highly effective age assurance at 13. Because if we're being very frank, that's really hard to do, because 13-year-olds don't have driver's licenses, many don't have a passport, may not have a bank account. There are ways and means of doing it, but if say a social media platform was just applied facial age estimation and just was assessing using that whether somebody looked over 13 or not, would that be enough to satisfy you, or are you expecting them to go further than that?
So I think we do have our technical colleague in the room, thank goodness. But so we did put some methods that we thought could be used in this context within our open letter to services a few weeks ago, which, John, you might want to remind me exactly what they were.
Yeah, so we listed 3 technologies that we said. Do you want me to grab the mic? Yeah. It just shout really loud.
You can't be heard at home that way.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the open letter, we referenced 3 technologies that we believed could be capable of working at the 13 age gate, and they were facial age estimation, digital ID, and one-off photo ID matching. As you mentioned, Ian, there's obviously limited availability for some of those things, but we have assessed to see what the extent of that availability is and how it could grow. And as long as those 2 solutions are there and they can be used, we're in a chicken and egg scenario where people aren't going to go and get them or use them until there is a need for them to do that. So we've said that those technologies could work. And as Katie mentioned, you have to take a risk-based and proportionate approach to your service. So if you've identified that you are a high-risk processing and you don't want under 13s on your account because of the terms of service, then here's an example of some technologies that we believe could work. That's not an exhaustive list. We're a tech-neutral approach. We're saying that this is what we currently think. That's going to evolve. That's going to change. As Katie said, come and talk to us. Tell us about your technologies. Give us more information, and we can become more informed about these things as it goes ahead.
Christian Ramsbach from the OECD. The ICO is globally not only, let's say, known in the privacy community for the work on children's safety, but also for the work on privacy-enhancing technologies. And obviously it does, there is a strong connection here. And so I was wondering to what extent this connection between the work of the ICO on privacy-enhancing technologies and age assurance is explicitly explored, and also because I didn't see it explicitly mentioned, but obviously there is a connection here. So the question is, to what extent is that connection explicitly explored and also put forward in that discussion around age assurance, privacy preserving age assurance?
So I think we are very, very clear. So going back to what John was saying, I think the status quo at the moment just isn't enough. Okay, children aren't being protected online, particularly on those services that are, have a minimum age, are not suitable for children to go on. Just using self-declaration isn't enough. The status quo is not enough, and we need to think of like innovative solutions to that, and services should be thinking about that. As John says, we want to talk about that. When it comes to privacy preserving tech, absolutely, like we are the privacy regulator, so it absolutely does have to be privacy preserving, and our focus over the coming months is certainly going to be on looking at the solutions that are there with these risk reviews, looking at, are they actually privacy preserving solutions, and hopefully, as I said in my talk, hopefully giving that confidence that it is possible to do both.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Matt. I'm the head of legal at Blue Sky. I'm hoping to get a little clarification. I don't want to, sorry, I'm trying not to block the camera by standing. Here I am. Hoping to get a point of clarification. You've talked about the need to enforce minimum ages repeatedly, and then you've also talked about preventing harms to children. And we have very much seen those as, in some ways, as two separate things. The OSA is quite clear about protecting children and what that looks like, and it, for us, translates to blocking access to content and features that could harm children, and we've done that and put it behind an age gate. But we also know that children can't consent to their data being processed if they're under 13, and so a lot of platforms, ours included, largely as a prudential matter, contractually have a minimum age of 13. Is it the ICO's position that if we have that contractual minimum age, even if we're abiding by the OSA requirements, we have to age gate every single user on the platform in order to force that contractual minimum age? Because if so, it seems like you're saying every information society service has to age gate, because you'll either have to identify children under 13 in order to process their data, or identify the age of all users to enforce a contractual minimum age.
So good question. So technically, if you have a minimum age of 13 on your platform and there are under 13-year-olds on your platform, you will be unlawfully processing their data because they are on your platform, you have no lawful basis, so you are unlawfully processing their data, which you shouldn't be doing. Of course, there is a risk element to this. So if there's a service that is completely suitable for all ages, so the only reason you have a minimum age of 13 is because of this legal obligation, then that might be something that we can sort of discuss and think about, like, have you actually reduced your risk enough to the unlawful processing of under 13s? However, a lot of services, particularly the ones that we're looking at, are services that not only have placed a minimum age of 13 because of the digital age of consent, for example, but also because their platform is not suitable for under 13-year-olds. And if you're operating a platform that is not suitable for under 13-year-olds for whatever reason that you have assessed, and you've got a minimum age of of 13, then you should be enforcing that minimum age.
I've got a question. you see solutions advertising and saying that they engage with zero knowledge proofs. And another aspect, another bit of what you often see or hear is that there is zero data retention. Those two things are both extremely attractive ideas. And isn't there a certain logic, therefore, to say that every solution that emerges has to have those two pillars as part of it?
It's an interesting point. And
Sorry, there's a chap who knows a lot about this stuff. Robin?
Hi, Robin Toombs from Yoti. So specifically, a lot of teenagers get the Yoti app to prove age, and they do it because they want to reuse one face in the Yoti app to get facially age estimated, so they can then just share that they're over 15 or 16 or 17 or 18. Obviously, there's a buffer there, but there's lots of 15, 16, 17-year-olds who would like to easily do that, but don't want to try and prove age at every place by putting their face into the camera. They want to do that once on an app. So that age wallet, can you clarify it's not special category data for the purpose of facial age estimation? We're not trying to identify that person, but because we want them to be the only person who provides the age credential from the wallet, we require biometrics, the face photo, to ensure that it's only them who basically share age and not their friends using that app. That is special category data because it identifies the person. It does a face match to ensure that they are using the account. So there's one face photo, but there's two different purposes, one of which is special category data, one of which isn't. The retention of that data in obviously a reusable app means we want to allow that user to use it quite a lot. Do you have any guidance on how long a teenager should be able to use that reusable face credential without us deciding you haven't used it for 6 months or a year, we're going to basically kill your reusable wallet?
I mean, I don't think we've got any specific guidance, unless John would like to correct me on that at the moment. It goes back to the sort of, only keep for as long as is necessary. But we can certainly have a conversation about that offline with our technical guys.
Well, I'm afraid because of the global thing and people logging in, that's it. We're on time now. So thank you very much indeed, Casey. That was wonderful.